Happy Thursday to you. Oh, I'm just catching the delay there where I can see the hairspray and stuff. Yeah, I look good. I look good. Hey, we're doing this from over here tonight because we're going to attempt to play around with some things and, hopefully it goes well. Hopefully. We'll see. I'm going to cover some things for you here today. And maybe something that you're not going to like. Don't know what to tell you. You may not like this. We're talking about your brokerage accounts and how the really wealthy people do it. And so remember that in 2023, I'm really making an extra effort to think of the more detailed things that I can teach you that maybe are a little geeky. Some may be over your head, some maybe not even apply to you. But as I think of things that make sense and that I want to include to help, of course, we're going to talk about them. And so I know what's going to happen. This is going to spark a lot of questions, a lot of emails, a lot of phone calls. But what else do I got to do, right? That's what Eric's here for. That's what I'm here for. The whole team is here for that. So, of course, I'm happy to help if something here pops out to you as being a little interesting, right? So I'll do like I always do. And I'll go through everything. We'll talk about it. This will be really short, this part. I always say that, right? I always say it's going to be short. This will be short, and but we'll go through everything. And so grab yourself a little drink. I have once again stolen some of Charlie's bourbon that he's got in his office, the Gundalach, whatever it's called. It is quite tasty. And so let's get into it. You know what I mean? Okay, do you have a brokerage account? Or maybe you're considering one, whether you have them here with Jazz or you have one that you trade in, or maybe you like your own investments or you're into building your own portfolios. A lot of our clients do that, so never feel bad about that. That is totally cool because the goal is you learn something, and so you want to go test it out and start to grow your wealth. I'm, of course, happy to help with it, even if we do not manage it here, right? So never feel worried. I know some of you take advantage of that, of course, and ask the questions, but for everybody, never feel worried about asking us here about questions of other accounts that you have. And naturally, we're limited to some degree. We can't see things, but if it's a position or maybe some strategy or something, you never know what you might learn. Okay, so with a brokerage account, how does this work? How does this work? Let's see what we can do here. We're going to go like this. Ooh, fancy. All right, so in a brokerage account, remember how we are taxed. So, and I'm going to be talking about joint accounts. I'm going to be talking about the individual accounts, right? These are all the same accounts, trust accounts, although that won't really apply to us today. In these accounts, we only pay tax on realized gains, right? Everything's still good? Seems like it's good. Yeah. So we only pay tax on realized gains. Now, we either pay short-term capital gains or long-term capital gains. And we know that this is for 1 year and 1 day if we hold a position, and this is for less than 1 year. And this won't be a discussion on that tonight. I actually just recently did a class. You could go back, scroll down just a little bit, you'll see the class that we did on that one. So not really a topic on short-term, long-term capital gains. So while we have these accounts, we have positions coming and going, also dividends, right? So we know we get paid dividends along the way, and that's normally treated as short-term capital gains, qualified dividends as long-term capital gains. There's some wiggle room there and some things you can do, but for the moment, we're focused on that. And here's where I really want to get sort of deeper with this. What happens? I'm going to use an example. I'm not picking on anybody, but I'm going to use an example and say you've got a joint account. Why? This is wiggly. So you've got a joint account and you have position XYZ, ZYX, YZX, Z, nope, can't do that one, and you got something else, ZBX, okay? And you start this here, and over time you say, I'm gonna grow my wealth. This is what I'm gonna do. I've got my retirement done, I'm gonna grow my wealth. So let's pretend that you bought this position at $30, this one at $10, this one at $25, and this one also at $30, okay? And you never did another thing. You got your account set up. Usually it's husband and wife in here, by the way, but it doesn't have to be. You can have a joint account with anybody you want. So I'm going to use the example of husband and wife. So we got husband and wife joint account over here with the following positions, and the total balance adds up to, let's say, $100,000. All right, so they've bought enough of these shares to make that happen. Now let's pretend for a moment that you never ever did another thing. You just didn't sell them, they didn't pay dividends, it was very clean, very simple. Now down the road, you guys are 40 years old now. Let's say down the road you're 65 and these accounts have grown. Now this thing is worth $100. This one's worth, say, $55. This one didn't do as well. This one's worth $35 and this one's worth $100 as well. Okay? So you've got all these positions and now let's say the account has grown to $300,000. Remember, investing is just a piece of it. The tax efficiency is the other part. I've been harping on that just a little bit. You still good? Good. Okay, so now we have a long-term, I would call successful joint account. It's grown from 100 to 300,000 with no extra effort on your part. You just simply bought the right positions, they did well, and that's good for you. Now, most of you are going to have more than these positions. You might have a whole suite of positions, or you might be invested here and have lots of positions. And so now you're 65 years old, you're starting to draw from your retirements and stuff. You never spent this money, so this becomes a bucket that we could use in your withdrawal strategies. And it's still in a joint account. You and the husband or you and the missus, you made it through life, you stayed together, everything worked out, and now you've come up on age 70. And let's pretend that the husband's health is deteriorating. She literally sucked the life out of him and he's almost got nothing left to give. I certainly hope that's not the case, but I'm trying to paint an example. And as you age, these positions continue to grow. And let's just say you never touched them, right? Now, when I give you the title, like why the wealthy don't have joint accounts, you know what I mean? When I say wealthy, I'm saying like add more zeros onto it. But this is more realistic today for us, mere mortals out there that just have a few bucks and we're trying to grow our money. But now, if you were picturing a really rich person, now what do we have? We have a $3 million account, right? Maybe a little bit more, 30 million. And so now we have this sizable position. Your health has declined, or your spouse's health has declined, and you pass away. Uh-oh. What happens? It's a joint account, so your spouse, the wife in this case, gets to take over. And let's say she says, I don't have a need for the money at the moment. I'm just grieving, and I'm just happy that we have money to survive and now in my own single life. So now she has this account here. What's the tax treatment on that? Anybody want to guess? If we sold all of it, let's just say now she says, oh, thank God he's gone. He was such a thorn in my side all of my life. I'm going to sell all those positions that I never wanted in the first place, and I'm going to go live on an island somewhere. What's the tax treatment? Anybody know? I see there's a little delay tonight, so I'm going to give you an advantage. The tax treatment is you owe tax on half of all of the gains. What? It's a little bit weird. So you were a 50% owner in this account, and it no longer matters that your spouse is no longer with us, right? You were a 50% partner, and so the step up in cost basis is only 50% yours. It was 50% his, but he's not here anymore. So you normally get to step up the cost basis. Does everybody know what that means? Am I jumping too far ahead? Maybe I'll touch on that a little bit. I'll come back to it. Okay, so now you have 50% of your cost basis gets to step up. In other words, and I shouldn't have done this. Let's get rid of these. Let's go back to the 100,000, 300,000. In other words, your profit together as a couple was $200,000. You get to participate in 50% of the cost basis, so your basis is $200,000, which means you have a taxable, reportable income of $100,000 now as what? Potentially a widow filing single, right? And these are long-term capital gains, but nonetheless, I'm just pointing that part out as well. So you have a taxable event of $100,000. We don't want to pay tax, right? So let's do this. Let's say we have an individual account. We have the same positions. We have the same $100,000 starting point. We have the same life problems. We were 40, then we turned 65, then we turned 70, spouse passes away. And so now we have $300,000, but this is an individual account. So the individual passes away. The person that inherits the account inherits $300,000. And they say, you know what, thank you, that was nice. My spouse left me this. These positions are great. I still don't like the positions. I would like to sell them, and I would like to go live on an island somewhere or whatever. What's the basis in this account? Is that taxable? Well, as an individual, there's something we do that's called transfer on death. It's not a beneficiary. It's called transfer on death. Your IRAs and Roth IRAs, that's beneficiaries. This is transfer on death. So this is husband. He has the individual account and he says, transfer on death to my wife. If he does it this way, the money transfers on death. She gets 100% step up in cost basis. So now her basis on death is, or his death, sorry, is $300,000. If she sells it all the very next day, what is her taxable, reportable amount? Zero. $300,000, they have a $200,000 gain. Her basis is now equal to the gain. So now she ends up with no reportable income. We have a $200,000 profit. She gets the basis, that's just called step up in basis. She gets to report the value of those positions on the day of hubby's death, which of course equated out to $300,000. So she's on the hook for that. So the only thing that could really happen here is she somehow forgets about the account and it grows to $400,000. Well, her basis is $300,000, so she would owe tax on that. But if she chose to sell everything the day of his death or the day after or whatever, presuming the market didn't do anything crazy, she pays no tax. So the wealthy use an individual account, and they both have their individual accounts, right? And then they set up the transfer on death, because for the moment that's the law, that's what you can get away with. If you set it up as a joint account, you're a 50% partner. You only get half the step up. So that's the silliest thing, right? All we have to do is just put the money in an individual account. Now, I have been asked numerous times to take an individual account and move it to a joint account. Because inevitably a spouse will call up and say, hey, I've got my wife on the line. I have a brokerage account with you. My wife wants to be a part of it too, and she's kind of upset, because, hey, what if things don't work out between us? She worries that somehow that money is mine through a divorce proceeding or something. I totally get that, by the way. I wouldn't take sides on that. I always say, you're not going to hide money. That doesn't work like that. You don't just get to, divorce your spouse and somehow walk away with hidden money. You got to get really crafty and have North Dakota trusts and then have those, there's a whole thing. So, but most people aren't doing that. So, I go, well, just do this. Just put your wife as the TOD, transfer on death. What happened? What happened? Let's do it like this. What? What happened to the camera, Bob? Hold on. Let's see. Oh, I bet you I know what I could do. I'm going to go like this. And I don't know what that thing is. Oh, look who's smooth tonight. Okay, I thought of something there, right? See? Staying sharp. Y'all think old Dustin's losing his touch, man. Okay, so nonetheless, so they say, my wife thinks this or my husband thinks that or whatever. He might run with the money or something. So would you please put him as the joint owner of the account? And I always say, please don't do that, right? Because you're losing the tax benefit for fear of something, divorce, whatever, that is just not possible. You can't run away with money. And people will still tell me, nope, start that joint account. Cannot have it any other way. I mean, I'm going to do what you tell me to do, but I at least want to provide the advice. So really think about that, especially if you're someone who says this brokerage account is supplementing our life in the future. We've filled up our Roth. We don't care to fill up any more money. We want to have extra money in a brokerage account in case we need it for something else. Really, really think about that. Finally, I want to add one thing. This is the financial side of things. You might want to consider the legal side of things as well. Eric will likely do something on this as well, but you have to be careful about any one of you that's in a high-risk profession, has been known to hit an 8-ball and then drink a bunch of whiskey and go driving. You know what I mean? If you're sort of reckless in life, you may want to reconsider. Because now you have people suing you, they're going to come after the money, they won't be able to come after your spouse's part. So if you had a joint account and one of you is really reckless in life or has a high risk business, you're a pediatric neurosurgeon, for example, and maybe something goes wrong, I don't know. Or you're a pediatric neurosurgeon who likes to hit the sauce at night and then again in the morning before you go do surgery. Yeah, I've seen it all, right? So if that's the case, the joint account legally may be the way to go. And you want to consider the difference between what tax savings you'll have versus the probability of you being involved in something probably that's pretty rare. But I don't know your lifestyle, right? I only get to hear and see you happy faces. I don't know what you guys are doing at night. And so there you go. Yes, and Swamp Rat said this is perfect there. In a divorce, now it's not always 50%, by the way, so it's a little different these days. So in a divorce, you're just balancing out each one of your balance sheets. So they may not get 50% of that account. However, that money is rightfully 50% theirs. You may choose to sell one of your cars in order to make up the difference. So in a divorce, if you had $100,000 in a brokerage account, well, that brokerage account is in your name. You start with $100,000. If they have nothing, right, then you will owe them $50,000. How you choose to give them the 50 is up to what you guys agree on. So, but sounds like you're, there he goes, talking from experience there. But in other words, it's not, don't think of it like that. My brother-in-law worked out a completely different thing where they chose to, keep one, he was going to keep the house and she was going to move on, all this stuff. So the point is, think about that for just a brief second and then go, I like my wife. I'm probably not going anywhere. And even if I did, I would still rather have us get that step up in basis if I die in a plane crash or if something happens. So there you go. That's what I wanted to talk about today. And there you go. Can you turn a joint account into a TOD? You can have a TOD on a joint account, but it can't be either one of you. So spouse and spouse have 50% ownership of the account. In the event that something happens to spouse number 1 and or number 2, you can have, of course, somebody go on from there. But you can't go backwards. What you would want to do is you would say, oh, I don't want this joint account anymore. You'd actually just want to close it, open an individual account, or just shift everything into an individual account there. Now, if you're considering that, first, maybe share this video with your spouse, because if you go to your spouse and you say, you know that account that you own 50% of, I'm going to take it. I'm going to put it in my name and my name only. Natural alarm bells are going to go off. So just let them know and kind of talk through it before you do that. We don't want to start any fights. Yeah. Roger, I've met a few of those, yes. I hope there's not many of them, but hey, back in the day, you used to be able to have a drink as a pilot, sit at the local pilot lounge there, have a drink, and then go fly an airplane. You know what I mean? So there's still that age group